Talking smack, Jim Rome on WBES, Charleston, 95 The Sports Fox.
The opinions expressed on the Brandon Lowe Show do not represent the values of Bristol Broadcasting Company. WBS Charleston, West Virginia, a Bristol Broadcasting Company station.
Right, let's turn it up. Woo. Let's get weird, buddy. Let's get weird.
Mike Patton.
Well, he was 15. Yeah, he's a good player.
The officials were struggling mightily. I mean, they can't count to three.
I've been following Cam Newton ever since he played for the Ohio State Buckeyes, my #1 college football team.
We got our kicked today.
No basket! No basket! No basket! Lions win! Lions win! Lions win!
You got Jared Gordon in the middle of the field talking everybody. Then when somebody say something to him, he don't even supposed to be on the field. Are you ready?
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the biggest show in sports.
This isn't Fart Talk Radio or anything.
Monday.
Brandon Lowe Show 95, the Sports Fox. You're out of work, Charleston. Time to talk some sports. Excited to be here with you today. Man, what a great weekend of sports, right? Especially for the Mountaineers, getting a 10th victory. Only 9 other times have Mountaineer squad won 10 or more games in program history, so congratulations to the Mountaineer football team. Also, basketball team getting a huge victory over Virginia, 6th-ranked Virginia at the time, on the road. At the time, Virginia had a 24-game home win streak. It was the 5th longest in the NCAA, and the Mountaineers snapped that to get the victory, and we'll get to those new AP polls and such in college basketball and the breaking news. Also tell you where the Mountaineers are headed and going bowling and who they'll play. Also announce the other bowl games that kind of intrigue us here at the show. Top 4 are locked in, playoff committee, and all this conversation all day long about Ohio State gets in the top 4. Are you surprised? I understand the surprise behind it, but we'll get into all that stuff, the Penn State stuff. We'll get into all that later on the show. Of course, we'll have a lot of Mountaineer stuff. Like I said, we'll have Tom Brad come on at 5:15. He's going to break down the Super 6 stuff, what we saw. We're going to talk about these programs, the history involved with these programs, and all classes, especially Mingo Central, the way they sit out Coach Yogi Kender, his last season coaching for the Miners, state champions. And what a way to send out Coach Kender. Let's go ahead and bring in Matlock, though.
Yo!
What up, dog?
What is up?
How was your weekend, man?
Good.
Good weekend?
Oh, yeah. And as you were saying earlier about that Yogi Kender team, man, awesome. Not a better way to end your career there, right?
Right. I'm going to ask Tom about this, too, which I got hammered on Twitter and Facebook because I left off a couple words or characters or whatever. Twitter only gives you so many characters.
Key facts, Brandon.
So I got hammered. I had to retweet. But 55 years since Mingo County School won a AA state title.
There we go.
23 years since Mingo County won a state title. 93 Maywan. So, and people let me know about that, too.
Yep. You better remember that Maywan 93 team.
So we'll talk to them about that. Martinsburg's victory. Also talk about St. Mary's victory over East Hardy. I want to talk about this All Valley team as well. A couple players on there. A lot of Mount State Athletic Conference players, coaches, things of that sort. We'll get on into all those topics with Tom Bragg at 5:15. You can call the show 304-344-9704. Take us on the go at 95thesportsfox.com. TuneIn app. It's Simulcast. RSNSports.com. The YouTube channel is up. Go over and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We need to put a link or something on our website, but you can actually watch it at our website right now. We are live at 95thesportsfox.com as well as rsnsports.com. And I had a good weekend, too. My daughter turned 2 years old officially on Saturday.
I was going to ask you about that.
And then we had a birthday party on Sunday at the rec center down here in South Charleston. So that was great. A lot of cake, a lot of chips and pop and conversation, met up with the family. It was a good time. Good weekend and such, and just a total great weekend. Daughter turning 2, Mountaineers in basketball and football win. We'll get to the soccer situation too, but just a great weekend. And Nick gets had a good weekend of playing video games or something.
Yeah, I was chilling and grilling too. Man, I grill out hard still.
You got the grill in the back now, right?
Yeah. So I'm one of those people you're gonna see out there like 3 foot of snow and still grilling. I'm that guy.
What do you like to grill? You grilling like
everything: steaks, burgers, anything. I'll grill it all.
Ribs? On that?
Oh, I would love to do ribs. I've not did a good set of ribs yet, but I will.
Okay.
Oh, man, you're making me hungry right now. Jeez.
All right, let's go ahead and get into our breaking news.
It's time for breaking news in sports, but it's still sports and news.
From the Brandon Lowe Show newsroom, I'm Brandon Lowe, and here's the news and sports. That's still sports and news.
All right, news and sports. Sports is still news. All the conference championship games were decided on Saturday. All of them were pretty boring. We talked about the Pac-12 game. As far as Michigan, because they were right outside that top four, we were talking about these conference championship games. We already assumed Alabama was going to make it regardless of what happened in the SEC championship game, even if Florida won that game. The only thing you could essentially saw was Bama maybe fall a spot, but they were going to be the top four. You also had Clemson in the ACC title game. That potentially could have put Michigan possibly in that top four, knocking Clemson out. You could have seen Clemson stay at 4, Ohio State, or something of that sort. Somebody would have to drop out. But Penn State and Wisconsin was the best conference championship game. Unfortunately, it didn't matter. Penn State's going to head to the Rose Bowl. They're going to take on USC. We'll get into that stuff later on the show. But these final rankings, Alabama at 1, Clemson at 2, Ohio State at 3, Washington at 4. They blew out Colorado in that Pac-12 championship game. I made a joke, which I'm not going to repeat on Facebook, but
that's good.
It wasn't a bad joke. I said, Colorado, congratulations. You are now the West Coast Mountaineers. Beautiful mountains in your state, and you also choke on the national stage. Oklahoma at 7. Oklahoma at 7. Talking about Big 12 teams. Oklahoma State at 12. West Virginia at 16. West Virginia doesn't move, which is pretty interesting because you had Western Michigan at 13-0. Auburn at 8-4 will play in the Sugar Bowl against Oklahoma. That's you kind of scratch your head there. Louisville at 13 at 9-3. Oklahoma State at 9-3, which they got the head-to-head to West Virginia. Florida State at 11 at 9-3. Some of those rankings in front of West Virginia, you kind of scratch your head and wonder what they were thinking with some of those final rankings. Now we'll get to Holgerson's comments later on the show too. He actually finally said what he thought about these rankings. We'll get to that later on when we do our Mountaineer stuff. All right, college football playoff bracket, Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, and Washington. Alabama and Clemson will take on each other in the Fiesta Bowl. And then, I'm sorry, I messed that up. Alabama and, I messed it up again. Alabama and Washington, the Peach Bowl. Ohio State and Clemson in the Fiesta Bowl. Sorry, mixed that up. Of course, Alabama, number 1 seed, laying waste his schedule this season, finishing 13-0 and champion the SEC. Clemson jumped Ohio State to number 2 seed. Tigers won an ACC title game. Ohio State didn't play, so that's probably why they boosted up to 2. Ohio State at 3. Buckeyes played the toughest schedule of anyone in the rankings. They had 4 games against top 10 teams, 3 of which were on the road. They went 3-1 against those teams. Washington held its spot last week at number 4 after beating Colorado 41-10 for the Pac-12 title, and they end the season with a 12-1 record. And we're going to get to all that stuff later on the show, too. I'll tell you why you're overreacting with this Ohio State and Penn State situation. All right, Purdue to hire Western Kentucky's Jeff Brom as next coach. Josh Taylor at Fox Sports Ohio thought Les Miles. So a lot of people thought Les Miles might take the Purdue job. Instead, they're going to go Western Kentucky's Jeff Brom. He's done a tremendous job at Western Kentucky. He's 10-3 this year, win his 2nd consecutive Conference USA title in 3 seasons with the Hilltoppers. Brom has a record of 30-10 and a conference record of 19-5. And also in the 3 seasons at Western Kentucky, Brom's offenses have averaged 44.6 points, about 45 points per game, about 526 yards per game. Wow. Compare that to Purdue's offense, which has never scored more than 25 points per game in any of Hazel's head coach 3+ seasons with Boilermakers. So potentially what they're trying to bring back to West Lafayette is kind of the offensive attack or pass attack we saw when Drew Brees was playing at Purdue. So potentially you might see finally Purdue kind of get to this modern style of offense we're seeing in college football. NFL playoff picture. Cowboys clinched their playoff berth. First team to clinch a playoff berth. They played earlier, and they beat Minnesota. I'm sorry, they didn't even play this week. They won, or actually, they played Thursday, didn't they?
Yes, they did.
Thursday against the Vikings, won that 17-15. They didn't have to play this weekend, is what I meant, on Sunday. So they played early, got to sit back and watch Cardinals defeat the Redskins. Therefore, the Cowboys go ahead and clinch the division and clinch a playoff spot. They should be the number one seed in the NFC. And looking at some of the other teams who's in, Broncos, this is just a projection, Broncos in the AFC, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. In the NFC, they're now tied with the Falcons. Now, Atlanta does hold the division record tiebreaker. But right now, who's out? Dolphins. Dolphins are going to go probably from the 6th seed to the 7th spot with their horrible, horrible loss to the Ravens, 38-6, I think, this weekend. Washington Redskins with their loss to Arizona. Washington falls to 6-5-1, a half game behind the Bucs in the NFC race. Most likely, Tampa Bay will probably grab that wild card spot at some point. Still got a couple games left, but the Redskins right now is out. Who's up? Packers. Packers won their 2nd straight. Green Bay climbs in the NFC standings. They had them at the the 9th spot. So sitting at 6-6, so they're slowly moving themselves up. Oakland Raiders, with their win over the Bills and Pats, playing the MC team. The Raiders are back to number one seed in the AFC because of the strength of victory tiebreaker. How about the Oakland Raiders? Man, great season for them. Looking at college basketball rankings, a lot of good college basketball games this weekend as well. As I mentioned, WU with a big victory over Virginia. They moved from 25 to 15. They jumped 10 spots in the AP poll. Baylor, now that's a team you got to watch out in the Big 12. They're currently 8-0. They just look solid. They're sitting at 4. Kansas at 3. Villanova, who's the defending national champion, sitting at the top spot at 8-0. How about UCLA knocking off Kentucky in Rupp Arena? UCLA's got a squad this year, folks. They're sitting at 2. So just to watch out for some of those teams and some of the games this past weekend. Speaking of some of the past games this weekend, Rick Pitino. You may know that guy. You know, he's got those 2 mansions we talked about last week, the $25.9 million mansion, the $4.3 million vacation home that he's renting out possibly for $18,000 a month. He says D1 newbie, Grand Canyon University. Remember Grand Canyon University, Nick? They follow us on Twitter, actually.
Awesome. Thanks for the follow.
He said, this in college basketball, my 40-plus years, was the toughest crowd I've ever faced. Toughest crowd. He said, I don't know a whole lot about Grand Canyon except for us doing Dan a favor coming out here. Dan Marley, who played for the Suns and things of that sort in NBA, coaches the Grand Canyon's team. He said, whether we go to Duke, Kentucky, nothing was tough as this environment tonight. He said they were playing music during the timeouts. Music and bands who can hear one word in the timeout. Was the band behind the actual huddle, or
who orchestrated this?
Do they actually play in the Grand Canyon? That's what I want to ask.
That's great.
It's got great sound.
Man. Best acoustics in the world from what I hear.
I just, I don't know if I buy that. Especially the Duke thing. I mean, Cameron Indoor is kind of tough to play at. The Duke crazies are pretty crazy. All right, let's go to break. All right, we'll come back. We should have Tom Bragg on the line, talking some high school football, the Super 6, recapping that, going through some of this stuff. A lot of great stuff of Super 6. You can call the show 304-344-9704. This is the Brandon Lowe Show, 95 The Sports Fox.
You're listening to The Brandon Lowe Show on 95 The Sports Fox. Be a part of the show. Let the Valley hear your opinion.
You know, that's just like your opinion, man.
On the top sports stories, locally or nationally. On The Brandon Lowe Show, call 304-344-9704.
Hey, Quad County, this is Brad Sang again with John Sang Ford Lincoln in Gallipolis, Ohio. Hey, just so you know, if you haven't heard, Fed is raising interest rates. You better hurry into John Sang Ford Lincoln soon because we have rates as low as 0% for 72. That's right, 0% for 72. Only at John Sang Ford Lincoln in Gallipolis, Ohio.
We got integrity, pricing, and quality service. John Sang Ford Lincoln Mercury.
Hey, Quad County, this is Brad Sang again with John Sang Ford Lincoln in Gallup-Lease, Ohio. Hey, currently we have our year-end clearance sale going on, and the selection is great, and the prices are low. So you better get in here as fast as you can. Or better yet, shop on the web at www.johnsang.com or give us a call at 1-800-272-5179.
We got integrity, pricing, and quality service. John Sang Ford Lincoln Mercury.
This is JT the Brick with Tom Looney.
Lane Kiffin, I don't know what he's going to do, but I think from knowing Lane Kiffin a little bit, I don't think he wants to settle in with the Houston program. After the guy who got it to go this good left for the Texas job, there's no upside for Lane Kiffin. If they're not as good and he's the head coach there, then people say, well, he couldn't be a head coach again.
This is JT the Brick with Tom Looney.
Nights at 8 on 95 The Sports Fox.
Follow the show on Twitter at WBES Brandon Lowe. You can also listen to the Brandon Lowe Show on your TuneIn app or at 95thesportsfox.com. Now, back to the Brandon Lowe Show on 95 The Sports Fox.
All right, welcome back. Brandon Lowe Show, 95 The Sports Fox. You can call the show at 304-344-9704. We have Mr. Tom Bragg on the line. What's up, Mr. Bragg?
Oh, not a whole lot. How you doing, man?
Doing good, man. Kind of sad that the high school football season's in the books.
You ain't the only one, buddy.
Did you, speaking of, sports in the books, did you check out that Chicago Cubs thing I told you about last night?
You sent me the message last night, and I set it to record, but I had about 4 other things lined up to watch last night, so it's on the list. So it's, the DVRs can get some action now that football season's over.
It's amazing stuff. They actually had, I don't know if you saw that too, they had kind of the recap, kind of showing what the Cubs fans are going through the World Series. It was pretty cool that Fox Sports 1 kind of already put that together. I'm sure there's a 30 for 30 probably in the works too.
Oh, I'm sure. It's going to be great.
All right, let's jump into it. Let's start with Class A. St. Mary's, which came close to a title 2 years ago, captured its first crown. 104-year history of the school, 23-8 win against East Hardy. I had East Hardy winning in my bracket, but I'm certainly happy for the St. Mary's team.
Oh, yeah, it's a great story with St. Mary's. You know, they've been close so many times. So many years where, they're the 1, 2, or maybe even the 3 seed. They come in after a great regular season and then kind of kick the dog a little bit in the playoffs. You mentioned the state title game 2 years ago against Williamstown. I was up in Wheeling Island for that game. It was cold. It was rainy. It was a multiple overtime game. It was one of the best football games I've ever seen. But, Williamstown had an outstanding effort from some of their players and able to get the title 2 years ago. I'm with you. I kind of lean towards East Hardy in this matchup just because of the pedigree with what they've done last year and all of the great players. Brett Tharp, the receiver, is one of the best receivers in the state. Corey McDonald, the quarterback's one of the best quarterbacks in the state. But this was a really good St. Mary's team. They had kind of handled all comers this year, and it wasn't always pretty, but it seemed like, at the end of the season, things kind of sorted itself out. There was a lot of, not argument, but debate through the season on, well, who's the best team in Class A? And you could have made a case for 4 or 5, maybe even 6 teams, but I think the tournament got it right, and St. Mary's proved they were the best team in Class A this year.
Yeah, and then you go back to St. Mary's, going back to that Williamstown game and such, and Barnhart, who's senior running back, linebacker now on that team, recalling back to that 2014 St. Mary's team. They had 2 sophomores starting that year. So this is a squad that kind of grew up together and built up that chemistry, and it just all that paid off in the end with the state title.
Oh, absolutely. And they've got one of the best coaches in the state, regardless of class, in Jody Moat. So it's a good program they have up there, and I'm glad they've got the hardware to go with the history now.
All right, Double-A Mingo Central, Yogi Kinder in his final year, spent through so much personally, captures that championship. Just a wonderful story. We've talked about it multiple times. 55 years since Mingo County School won a Double-A title. Just so much behind this game, so many emotions involved. And we asked Yogi last week what he was going to be thinking while he's standing on that sideline. He just got emotional throughout the interview. It's just a great way to send off Coach Kinder.
Yeah, and that's a team that we've kind of talked about since, July or August, whenever we got going with these weekly things as a team to look to in Class AA, as maybe someone that could unseat Bridgeport as the reigning champions. As it turned out, they didn't get a shot at Bridgeport this year. I would have loved to see that game, but Fairmont Senior, they had a really good year too. I wonder if maybe they ran out of gas a little bit after having to exhaust so much just energy getting through Bridgeport in the semifinals. Looked like they were a step slower than they had been this year in that state title game. But hats off to Mingo Central. You mentioned Coach Kinder. One of the kind of underreported stories this year has been Jeremy Dillon, the quarterback down there. He was barely a quarterback when he came in. More known for his basketball prowess. Of course, he's committed to play basketball at Marshall, but we'll see what happens after the year he had. But, they kind of plug him in after, losing some guys off of last year's team that everybody thought was a really good Mingo Central team, and they just didn't lose. I saw them play down at Sissonville a couple of weeks ago, or a month or two ago now, I guess it was, and my eyes kind of opened, like, wow, I thought this would be a team that was, big on defense and would just run the ball down your throat. You couldn't do anything with that offensive line, but, they got the quarterback in there, and it didn't completely change things for them, but it gave them a whole new side to that offense, and the proof is in the pudding. They go and win the state title.
I think another storyline with this, you mentioned Jeremy Dillon, but Joe Hunt, who previously, last year, he went down with that injury. Last season in the semifinals, they lost Stevie Hammond. Then Joe Hunt went down with a broken leg. So to see Hunt come back this year, 215 yards, 2 touchdowns, that's got to be great for him to come back and have a performance like that in the state title game.
Oh, yeah, I think our pal Ryan Britt said it best on Twitter Friday night. If Fairmont Senior's defensive line wasn't stopping Joe Hunt, then nobody in AA was, because that is a star-studded defensive front that the Polar Bears have, and he just shredded them on Friday.
Let's talk about Martinsburg. Obviously, one of those teams that have had multiple titles compared to these other teams we just mentioned, other classes, but they recorded 4 straight titles from 2010 to 13. Team was eliminated in the semifinal round of 2014, quarterfinal round last year. So Martinsburg back at the top of the hill in Class AAA. And this defense, we've talked about this defense, but it's just extremely impressive what they've done. We talk about their offense, which they have that, but just 15 touchdowns, 106 points in all games, 7 points in 4 playoff games. I mean, that's just outstanding defense.
Oh, it's one of the best defensive performances as a team that we've seen in this state in a long time. People talk about, they've had that great run, 5 out of the last 7 titles, but they hadn't won one before that. People forget that. Martinsburg, you mentioned the Cubs at the top of the interview. Martinsburg kind of played the Cubs role in AAA football for a long time. They could get to the dance, but they couldn't get anybody to go home with them after, but then they go on this run. They win 5 of 7 in dominating fashion this weekend over Spring Valley. As you mentioned, that defense. I believe Tyson Baden, the quarterback, ended up being the MVP of that game. Of course, he had a great year. The numbers weren't quite there, but that's what happens when you're starting at midfield and blowing teams out at halftime. So yeah, man, Martinsburg. I mean, you can't. It's hard to put into words how good Martinsburg was this year. We all know how good Spring Valley was, and what a good resume they had coming in. Good players, good game plans, good coaches, and Martinsburg just kind of threw them aside, like, so what? You're Spring Valley, we're Martinsburg, and again, that's another team we tabbed early in the year or over the summer. Is keep an eye on Martinsburg. They might be the team to beat this year, and every week all year long they didn't do anything to change our minds on that.
I think one of the scariest things, too, is they return most of their talent next year. Only 5 seniors man starting positions on offense or defense. Total 16 starting spots are scheduled back. 8 of 11 starters on both offense and defense were either sophomores or juniors. So that's scary.
Yeah, that's real scary. If you're Coach Dave Walker, I'm sure you probably lose sleep at night about injuries or kids transferring or moving or anything like that. But they can avoid some of that stuff. They might be better next year, and that's real scary.
I want to move over to your All Valley football team, 2016 Gazette American All Valley Player of the Year. Drake Pitts gets the honor of that. This is a guy that just does everything for South Charleston. Of course, we've talked about him multiple times. Originally verbally committed to Penn State. Now he's committed to WVU. Battled some injuries throughout the season, but when he was on the field, he was certainly the difference in how South Charleston played.
Yeah, of course, Drake Pitts had an outstanding year. I think he, had head and shoulders his best year as a high school player. I was, aware of his talent and respectful of it, but I hadn't really seen it come together on the field consistently until this season. You saw that season opener against George Washington where he personally accounted for 13 points in the first 5 minutes of the game. and that's all they needed, and they ended up winning that game. He was a big part of keeping that Capital game close in the first half before he went out with an injury. So, yeah, as he went, South Charleston kind of went, and when he was injured, things didn't go so well for him. But when he was on the field, he was, one of the best players in the state, and I think that showed up in our All-Valley list.
Looking through all these players, you got Grant Wells, you got Martin Jr. over at Capital. I mean, there's a bunch of players on this team. Just looking at all these players, do you think this is some of the most talented kids we've seen in a bunch in a long time in high school football?
Yeah, I think maybe not just this season, but you take the last just this decade of football in Kanawha Valley. You start with guys like Ryan Switzer and Aaron Dobson, Perry Henry from South Charleston, who ended up playing college basketball at Charlotte. You move on into the guys like Kayshawn Haley and Tyree Pratt win back-to-back Kennedy Awards from Capital, and now you've got guys like Derek Pitts and Grant Wells and Kerry Martin Jr., Dorian Etheridge. The list goes on and on. I think it's a bit of a renaissance for football players in the Kanawha Valley. The teams, on the whole, you've had good teams here and there and really good teams here and there, but the individual players and the talent coming out of this area is as good as it's ever been.
And I want to mention this before I let you go. Runner-up for the Kanawha Valley Player of the Year award was Buffalo senior running back Dylan Lucas, and we've talked about that kid multiple times. If someone did get a chance to catch him play, as you guys have covered him and probably seen him play dozens of times, this kid is just remarkable, and he broke Kurt Warner 78 for 263 points in a regular season. If people don't remember Kurt Warner, what you should, he was former Penn State. He played for the Seahawks, running back. This kid was Dylan Lucas was just outstanding in his career.
Yeah, he had my vote for Player of the Year, but, if second place to a guy like Derek Pitts, that's no shame in that. I mean, just what an outstanding career, as you mentioned. He tied Kurt Warner's, decades-old record for scoring in the state. Just was a complete game changer pretty much every time he was on the field. When teams were able to shut him down, that's when Buffalo had trouble. But you look at Buffalo's record over the last couple of years, they've been really, really good. So not a whole lot of teams have been able to stop that, even knowing going into it, this is what Buffalo does. They give the ball to Dylan Lucas. So, hats off to Dylan Lucas, hats off to that Buffalo football program. I know Coach Mike Sawyer stepped down last week, so we'll see what happens with it going forward. But it's been a great run for the Bison after some lean years there to start the decade.
With high school football done, what's next for you now?
I turned my focus kind of to high school wrestling.
Okay.
Do a little bit of that. I'll kind of do backup work and web work for all of our basketball coverage. Of course, I was able to get out. I went to Capital's basketball scrimmage on Friday night when the AA championship game was going on. I was at Capital High watching Capital and Tays Valley Christian play a pretty good scrimmage game. So I'll be doing a little bit of everything, but mostly I'll be working on high school wrestling for the next month or two.
Yeah, Ryan Arrowwood's doing a great job with that program.
Yeah, Arrowwood's doing a great job with Tays Valley Christian. Capital's going to, to switch the focus just for a second, they're going to be an interesting story in basketball this year. It's a team that's won 2 straight MSAC titles. They went to the state tournament last year. They only bring back one starter, Leandre Rogers, the just outstanding point guard they have. They also have Anthony Pittman and Kerry Martin, guys that were regulars for them, but not the starting role. But other than that, they lost a lot. So it'll be interesting to see what they do this year up there on the hill.
All right, he's Tom Bragg. Mr. Bragg, appreciate your time as always, brother.
Yep, we'll do it again soon.
All right, Tom Bragg, Set Mel Preps, web editor. Throwing out the basketball knowledge there, too. Look at that. Yeah, like I mentioned, Capital, basketball squad, they had a good squad when I was going to high school there. They always got a nice squad they push out. But been watching and keeping a close eye on Coach Arrowwood's team, too, with Tays Valley Christian. We've had him on the show multiple times. And like we've mentioned, too, we're going to switch gears with basketball, especially starting this week. We're going to have 1 or 2 of the guys from Basketball Friday Night on this Friday because their first broadcast right here on the Sports Fox is Friday. So and that'll be 9 p.m. to run all the way to midnight. I'll do all your coverage of high school basketball around the Mountain State right here in Charleston. That's right. Brought the boys to Charleston. I love it. All right. Let's take a break. Thanks again to Tom Bragg. Call the show, 304-344-9704. Let's get into this Mountaineer stuff when we get back. Football, basketball, and soccer. We'll get into all that after the short break. Brandon Lowe Show, 95 to Sports Fox.
You're listening to The Brandon Lowe Show on 95 The Sports Fox. Be a part of the show. Let the Valley hear your opinion.
You know, that's just like your opinion, man.
On the top sports stories, locally or nationally, on The Brandon Lowe Show. Call 304-344-9704.
It's high school basketball season, and Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia is bringing you the latest from every corner of the Mountain State.
High school basketball, there are some rivalries.
Join Ryan Epling and Coach Rick Maroon for the most up-to-date scoreboard and much more.
To beat Huntington St. Joe, who is 7-time state champ, just makes that victory so much better.
Join Basketball Friday night beginning December 9th from 9 to midnight on WBES 95 The Sports Fox and online at basketballnight.com.
It's Jason Smith. If it's almost a sport, we've got it here.
College conferences are now absolutely useless. 8 games isn't enough when you are trying to say who's the best team in the conference. You can have 2 losses out of conference, and they can lose another game in conference, and you're not playing for your conference title. There simply aren't enough games to truly gauge who the best team in the conference is.
It's Jason Smith.
Nights at 10 on 95 The Sports Fox.
Follow the show on Twitter at WBES Brandon Lowe. You can also listen to The Brandon Lowe Show on your TuneIn app or at 95thesportsfox.com. Now, back to The Brandon Lowe Show on 95 The Sports Fox.
All right, again, want to thank Tom Bragg. Always bringing out that great high school football coverage all year long. It's now in the books. Got all your champions in all classes. Congratulations to St. Mary's, Mingo Central, and Martinsburg for all your state titles. Speaking of that bracket challenge stuff, it's funny, Bobby Johnson kept putting this thing off. I saw he was in Los Angeles this weekend, taking in the views and the beautiful surroundings with both his eyebrows. Now, don't forget, and we didn't forget about this, Bobby Johnson will lose an eyebrow at some point.
We've not forgotten.
I think Bobby thinks we're just going to forget about it, but that's not going to happen. We did not forget about it. Now, I think he's supposed to come in. He comes in on Tuesdays. So he should be in here tomorrow. Now, it's funny, like I mentioned before, he kept putting it off, talking about the Super 6. Well, we got to wait for the Super 6. His teams were already eliminated, so I don't know why we were waiting for the Super 6 to be over with. Then he had to work last week. We'll give him the benefit of the doubt on that one. Then he said that his wife couldn't shave. We couldn't shave his eyebrows off until after the Christmas photo. So we got to wait and see if the Christmas photo is going to come up.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Shave it.
That's going to be us once we get to actually do this, which we're going to have to wait and see if he's down to do it. Now, you're going to bring your clippers tomorrow, Matlock, because we got to be ready.
That's right.
The official winner of this whole bracket challenge, it came down to Richard and Ryan, and it literally came down to the double A because both of them picked St. Mary's to win Class A, I believe. Both of them picked Martinsburg in Class AAA, and Ryan picked Mingo Central, I believe, and Richard picked Fairmont Senior. I think that's how it went. I saw his bracket. Richard picked Fairmont Senior. Looking at it now, Martinsburg, St. Mary's, and Fairmont Senior. And they both did tremendous. Richard did great. Richard's paying attention more to high school football than we think. Either that or he copied Ryan. I don't know. Maybe Ryan gave him a call. I don't know. That's what we're going with, right, Matlock?
Yeah, conspiracies. That's it. That's what it was.
What are you looking for? Are you looking for that X-Files music? I was waiting. All right, let's talk some Mountaineer stuff. Mountaineer football squad gets to 10 victories, finishing 10-2 overall, 7-2 in the conference. The best finish for a Mountaineer squad since joining the Big 12 Conference. This is the second time in 6 years Dana Holgerson has led his football team to 10 wins or more in a season. It didn't look great at the beginning of the game. It looked very sluggish. It was a slow start for the Mountaineers. It seemed like Skylar Howard was trying to do too much on senior day at times. He was missing a lot of throws. They took a lot of shots downfield. It wasn't there. I kept telling myself, why don't you just keep running the ball? because it's working. Because Justin Crawford, 28 carries, 210 yards. By the way, he went over 1,000 yards on the season, 1,168 yards to be exact, 7.4 yards per a carry. He's almost averaging 8 yards per carry. And good news to Mountaineer fans, we get another year of this. Just think of that next year. We have Justin Crawford, Kennedy McCoy, and Martell Petaway next year. That's another thing that you got to commend Holgorsen and his staff on what they've done as far as recruiting and building depth to compete in the Big 12. Because essentially, as I've said, the goal for WVU every single year is to simply just compete, be competitive, win some ball games in the process, and maybe, just maybe, one year you may win the Big 12. Maybe, just maybe, one year, maybe, you might get in the college football playoff. It's what you're building towards. And again, I've been hard on Holgorsen the past 2 years. But again, I can admit when I see somebody making progress, somebody doing a good job, and that's what Holgorsen's done. Holgorsen has essentially built a Big 12 program over the past 6 years. It's just been a process. If you remember, Art Browse, when he first got to Baylor, it took him 6 years to get Baylor where they were. It takes multiple years to get the players you need in your system, guys that you know you can plug in and be productive with. And Holgorsen's done a good job. And what I like about this team this year, as I've mentioned throughout the year, this is a team that fights every single game, even if they get down. You've seen multiple games where adversity hit them right in the face, and they swung back. You saw it multiple times in the Texas game. You saw it in the Kansas State game. You saw it in the Oklahoma State game. I mean, we lost the game, but we fought back. You saw it in the Oklahoma game. We were down huge, 41-7. We cut it to 13 points with a little over 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter. So even the games we lost, we still fought. So that's what I liked about this team. They showed a tremendous resilience and overcame adversity. That's the best part of this team. And you throw in the talent, it's great. And all the guys they lost on defense, too. And the Mountaineer fans complaining about the bowl. I'm happy about a 10-2 finish, 7-2 in the conference. Now, the whole bowl situation with the Russell Athletic Bowl, that's just the bowl tie-ins. Unfortunately, with the Big 12 this is what hurt us with the Big 12. Not still having the championship game, dividing us in two divisions. If West Virginia would have been on their side of the division, because they wouldn't most likely have been on the same side as Oklahoma and Oklahoma State, maybe, they would have been at the top of the division, possibly playing a Big 12 title game on their side. And we wouldn't be talking about them in the Athletic Bowl. I'm excited for it, though. They're taking on Miami, an old Big East foe. We haven't played it since 2003. I think we're 3-16 all time against the Hurricanes. Certainly a winnable game. I'm excited to see it. Plus, from a recruiting aspect, it's certainly great because West Virginia's huge on recruiting in the state of Florida. I want to get to Holgorsen's comments after the game. Let's start with the 10 wins. Let's get Holgorsen's comments on the 10 wins.
Yeah, it's big. It's happened twice in 6 years, we're excited about that. But this is the first time it's happened after the regular season, so that's something to be proud of. And that was our message all week with the guys. It ain't about me, I can assure you that. It's about these guys. And for our team to get to 10 wins in the regular season, that's putting you up there with a lot of those teams on that wall on the other side of the building. When you go by a lot of these BCS wins, it's the same type deal. We can't go to a BCS game because there isn't any. We could go to a Power 6 bowl, and I think we probably deserve to. I can't, for the life of me, figure out how we're ranked 16th. I haven't commented on this. But I will now. It's amazing how we got 2 losses to 2 top 10 teams. There's other schools that have 2 and 3 losses that are ahead of us that don't have losses to top 10 schools. I don't get how that is. It doesn't make any sense to me. This team's fought hard. Maybe we win too ugly. At the end of the day, I thought it was about winning football games. And we've won 10, and this group's, going to be remembered for that, and they're going to be on that wall back there because they're a great football team. And no matter where we go, there's a lot of good bowl games out there. No matter where we go, we're going to be excited about going, and hopefully we'll get to 11.
So there's Holgerson's comments in regards to the 10 wins, and he's right. It's a good season. Only 9 times, 9 other times in program history, the W football teams won at least 10 or more games. It's a great season. Unfortunately, with the bowl tie-ins, that's where you go when you're third place in the Big 12. I don't agree with the college football rankings with a 8-4 Auburn team in front of West Virginia, or a 9-3 Louisville team that lost to Kentucky, and at the time an unranked Houston squad, with a coach that was checked out and ready to leave Houston and go to the Texas job. But that's what happens. The committee, the playoff rankings, it didn't matter where we're ranked. We were already tied into the bowl. That's where we're going to get our invitation. I would have liked to see Vol Tech, though, or Pitt as an opponent. Now, I like the Miami matchup. Holgerson likes the Miami matchup. Let's get to Holgerson's comments, though, in regards to the committee.
I mean, if you just look at it over the course of the years, BCS games, now it's not BCS, it's what, Big Six, the Big Six games and all that stuff. A 10-2 team that has the wins that we have usually goes to those games. Somehow the committee don't like us because we somehow win ugly, but that's my opinion. I mean, I'll probably get in trouble for it. Somebody ain't gonna like that, but I don't care. I mean, I don't understand how you can have you can have 2 loss teams that have bad losses. You can have 3 loss teams that have bad losses, but yet we have two losses and they're both to top 10 teams. I don't get it. I didn't want to really comment on it during the season. It wasn't about that, but now season's over, and I say what I want. And I believe in our team because all they do is win. Lost to 2 good football teams in Oklahoma and Oklahoma State, which are top 10 teams.
I was waiting for your, I wish we had it. We can queue up, all I do is win, 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 no matter what. He said it like 3 times in that, but he has a point. I'm not happy with the college football rankings. I'm happy with the committee all season long. He has a point, but unfortunately, because you don't have a conference championship game, you can't get that last game. You don't get the divisions to break you up and possibly push you in one of those New Year's Six bowls. So that's the unfortunate part. Now, Holgerson gets his extension. That was official, which we knew about it, and announced it, 2 weeks ago now? A week ago? I think it was a week ago. Last week. Which there was multiple people when I put up on Facebook. Josh Taylor gave us a hint on it. Gave us a little inside info. And everybody, including people who think they're very close to the program, won't mention any names, called me out and said that there was nothing being negotiated in regards to the extension. Well, the extension now is official. It came right around the time that I announced. And also, if you listen to this clip, Holgerson also kind of mentions this thing has been an ongoing process.
Yeah, it's good. Man, we've been working on it. I mean, I appreciate everything that Shane's done and Kelly's done and Steve's done. Appreciate Dr. Gee, these guys. We've been working on it for quite a while. And you guys probably made a little bit bigger deal about it than I did. I put my head down and I give our coaching staff credit. They put their head down. They weren't worried about it. I wasn't worried about it. We just work, and finally got worked out. So excited about that. I've been excited about the future for a while. We've been getting better for the last however many years, and it's put some things to rest. It'll help in recruiting. It'll help moving forward in a lot of different ways. So excited about that.
What was that I was told? This just shows how out of touch you are with the Holgerson situation. Because I said that I'm sure there have been negotiations for a while about this. What did Holgerson say? We've been talking about this a while. I've been working on this for a while. Oh, okay. I'm just making sure we're keeping score here. Wasn't sure. But great thing. Extension calls for amended terms. 2017 campaign. I will have Holgerson under contract with the Mountaineers through the 2021 football season. New agreement will begin at the first of the year. 5-year total package worth $18.6 million plus incentives, with Holgerson's 2017 salary rising to $3.5 million plus incentives. He also has a buyout clause in the contract, which also someone told me they wouldn't have a buyout clause. There's no way. There's no way they'd have it. They do. Also, bowl game information. Game will kick off at 5:30, televised nationally on ESPN. So that is the bowl game. We'll cover all that stuff throughout the weeks leading up to that Russell Athletic Bowl. I'm excited for it. I'm excited for the season. Remember, this team was picked to finish 7th in the Big 12, folks. So great season. Next season, I'm telling you, there should be a top 10 squad. With all the guys coming back on offense and defense, you got Will Greer at quarterback. I'm telling you, it's a top 10 team next year. All right, let's go to break. Come back, I'll give you my thoughts on the WVU upset over Virginia. Also, Mountaineer squad will be playing the Civic Center Wednesday. That's their next game. I'll get to that too. Also, soccer club. Mention that. And then we'll get into this whole college football bowl games and such. After a short break, Brandon Lowe Show, 95 to Sports Fox.
Can I kick it? Well, I'm gone.
You're listening to The Brandon Lowe Show on 95 The Sports Fox. Be a part of the show. Let the Valley hear your opinion.
You know, that's just like your opinion, man.
On the top sports stories, locally or nationally. On The Brandon Lowe Show, call 304-344-9704.
Ho, 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 ho! Calling all Santa helpers!
Have a holly jolly holiday with a Members Choice West Virginia Federal Credit Union Christmas loan.
Now through December 23rd, borrow up to $1,500 with rates as low as 5% and 10 months to pay back. This is such a good deal, even the big man himself is getting a Christmas loan.
Apply online at memberschoicewv.com or stop in to 201 Ohio Avenue in Charleston.
Ho, ho, don't wait, Santa is watching.
MCWV, where you've made the right choice.
Loans are subject to credit approval. The Ben Maller Show.
I know I can't do it like Ben do it.
Ben Maller.
I had heard the plan was all along to keep Jeff Fisher around until the new stadium opens up. Nothing changed. The Rams weren't good last year in St. Louis. They're not good now in Los Angeles. They have bad players. They have bad coaches. And that's what you get. They're simply not in it to win it.
The Ben Maller Show.
Overnights on 95 The Sports Fox.
Follow the show on Twitter at WBES Brandon Lowe. You can also listen to The Brandon Lowe Show on your TuneIn app or at 95thesportsfox.com. Now, back to The Brandon Lowe Show on 95 The Sports Fox.
I want to congratulate the WVU women's soccer team on a tremendous season, reaching the national championship, trying to get that college cup. Tremendous season for them. Multiple consecutive weeks at number 1 in the country. They advanced to the College Cup for the first time in team history, winning a program record 23 games, and also tied for the most in Big 12 Conference history. They defeated North Carolina in the Final Four to get to the national championship, which North Carolina, as a program, has won 21 national titles. There's only 10 other schools in the history since the NCAA has sponsored women's soccer. 10 other schools have had more or close, multiple championships. So a great run by WVU, losing to USC 3-1. They had multiple opportunities, if you watch the game, to score. They tied the game to 1-1, and then USC got 2 other goals to get the victory. But congratulations to Nikki Izzo-Brown and her gals on a tremendous season. First time we've seen a team in a national championship other than the rifle team in a long time, because football team has been a while. Especially in the Big 12 Conference. So, good stuff. Congratulations to them. And we're working on trying to get her on the show, too, because I think that'd be good to bring her on and talk about her team. All right, I want to talk about this basketball game. It was interesting because Saturday, it was interesting watching both the football and basketball game, because the basketball game almost started out pretty much like the football game did. When you watch this game at first, in the first half, you're like, uh-oh, the Mountaineers are in trouble, because they struggled at times to score baskets against that pack line defense that Virginia loves there. Coach Bennett does a great job. We talk about West Virginia and their defense in the press, and certainly it causes a lot of problems. And they caused 14 turnovers on 10 steals on the Cavaliers, which has a tremendous backcourt. But when you're first watching this, you're going, uh-oh, because Virginia was totally dictating the tempo, did a good job of breaking the press. They hit shots on the half court. Virginia basically forced this into a half court game, which is usually the kryptonite for West Virginia. You force them to half court, you force them to play in half court offense most of the game. You dictate the tempo, which is how college basketball works anyway. And usually West Virginia doesn't fare well against that type of game. But what West Virginia did a good job of, much like we've seen the football team do, they stayed the course, they remained aggressive, they also attacked that pack line defense. what that defense essentially wants you to do, it's very similar to a zone. They want you to pass around the perimeter and take bad outside shots. And Virginia, knowing that West Virginia doesn't have a bunch of shooters, that's the best shot Virginia can force on defense. And they did that most of the first half. Now, West Virginia was only down by 1 point in that first half. It was really weird and strange when you were watching that game. If you weren't paying attention, if you didn't have the score on TV in front of you the whole time to show you how far down they were, you would have thought West Virginia was down by 10 points. The way that game was going, the way Virginia was dictating the game. But again, second half, West Virginia stays tough, stays the course, stays aggressive, and finds points as well in the half court, attacking the basket. West Virginia is so good at attacking the basket, especially this year. They got tall, long, lengthy guys that can get the ball aggressively to the basket and get rebounds. A lot of times they take some bad shots from the outside, and they depend too much on that. They panic sometimes on offense. But I was very impressed by what they did, especially in that second half of that game. They stayed the course. On the road against a team that's won 24 straight at home. 5th longest streak at that moment in the NCAA. So tremendous. Not just a top 10 team in the ACC on the road, but snapped a 24-game home win streak by the Cavaliers. Javon Carter scored 11 points. Issa Ahmad dropped a 3 with 1:28 to go to break a 55 all-tie in this game. WVU eventually made its final 6 from the charity stripe to seal the victory. Nate Adrian tallied 10 points. Ahmad also had 9 points and 7 rebounds. I'm really liking what I'm seeing out of Issa Ahmad. And I've said this several times. I feel like this is a coming-out party, a start to a coming-out party for Issa Ahmad. The more aggressive he gets, the better he's going to get. He's just too big, too athletic, and too talented to let that go to waste. When he starts to take over and he gets smart with the basketball, Issa Ahmad is one of the best, if not the best, basketball player on the entire team. He's the guy that eventually they're going to weigh heavy on his shoulders in a lot of games. And as I mentioned before we get a break, Mountaineers will take on Western Carolina on Wednesday night at 7 p.m. The game will take place right here in Charleston at the Charleston Civic Center. So you can go right down there and watch them play Western Carolina Wednesday night at 7 p.m. I wish it was Marshall, though. I mean, it's great. Western Carolina, it's good to get down there and still support your Mountaineers. But I'm telling you, I'm missing this. Bring it back. All right, let's go to break. Get back, I'll go over some of these college football bowl games that I like. Some intriguing matchups. Most of them are garbage. Did you know there's a potato bowl? Not like a bowl where you eat potatoes in, but literally a bowl called Potato Bowl. I don't get it. I'll also tell you Ohio State why they got selected in over Penn State. I'll tell you. Also, James Franklin from Penn State responds being left out of the playoff. Then we'll end the show with our Let's Get Weird news. Brandon Lowe Show, 95 The Sports Fox.
You're listening to The Brandon Lowe Show on 95 The Sports Fox. Be a part of the show. Let the Valley hear your opinion.
You know, that's just like your opinion, man.
On the top sports stories locally or nationally on The Brandon Lowe Show. Call 304-344-9704.
Bring on our guest. He's assistant coach, Fort Wayne Macedons, Mark Downey. What's up, Coach?
Not much, Brandon. How are you guys doing today?
I just want to congratulate you and your staff and your players on a tremendous win over a very good Indiana team.
Thank you. It was huge for our guys and our program and the school and the city. It really was. It was a great event, a great night, probably one of the biggest events in our school history, and a great success.
Listen to The Brandon Lowe Show weeknights at 5 on 95 The Sports Fox.
It's high school basketball season, and Basketball Friday Night in West Virginia is bringing you the latest from every corner of the Mountain State.
High school basketball, there are some rivalries tonight.
Join Ryan Epling and Coach Rick Marone for the most up-to-date scoreboard and much more.
To beat Huntington St. Joe, who is 7-time state champ, just makes that victory so much better.
Join Basketball Friday night beginning December 9th from 9 to midnight on WBES 95 The Sports Fox and online at basketballnight.com.
Follow the show on Twitter at WBES Brandon Lowe. You can also listen to The Brandon Lowe Show on your TuneIn app or at 95thesportsfox.com. Now, back to The Brandon Lowe Show on 95 The Sports Fox.
We were just talking off the air with this whole high school football situation. Bobby Johnson is going to lose an eyebrow. I'm wondering why Tater didn't call in after Capital lost. I mean, usually, you know, Tater called in a couple times. He told us they were going to win the state title. So I'm wondering where Tater is at. College football bowl game schedule. It reminded us because we were talking about the Potato Bowl, right? New Year's 6, Sugar Bowl, Rose Bowl, and Cotton Bowl, Orange Bowl. So Sugar Bowl is going to have Oklahoma and Auburn. Oklahoma should just completely throttle Auburn in that. Rose Bowl, Penn State and USC. Why is USC in the Rose Bowl? Money, I guess. Eyeballs. Because Colorado made the Pac-12 title. They won their side of the conference. You think runner-up in the Pac-12 would be playing in the Rose Bowl since the one that won the entire conference is playing in the playoffs. Cotton Bowl, Western Michigan and Wisconsin actually should be a pretty decent bowl game. Orange Bowl, Florida State and Michigan. I don't understand why Florida State's an Orange Bowl. Somebody explain that to me as well. I think the worst bowl game is going to be the Quick Lane Bowl. Boston College versus Maryland. Get ready for a 6-3 game, folks. You're better off watching baseball. All right, Holiday Bowl. That's going to be an interesting one. Washington State and Minnesota. I think that's going to be a good matchup there. Cactus Bowl. Baylor and Boise State. That could be pretty interesting. I think Boise State's going to beat Baylor. I really do. That's going to be an interesting matchup. Russell Athletic Bowl, as we mentioned, Miami and West Virginia. Foster Farms Bowl. Indiana and Utah. This could be pretty interesting. I don't think Indiana has the offense to keep up with Utah if it becomes a shootout, but Indiana has a very solid defense. Utah brings the offense. It'll be interesting to watch this game as well. Texas Bowl, Kansas State and Texas A&M. Hey, former Big 12 team taking on a current Big 12 team. Kansas State and Texas A&M, that'll be interesting. Alamo Bowl, Oklahoma State and Colorado. I mean, how does Colorado go from being in the Pac-12 title game, winning their side of the conference, to playing in the Alamo Bowl against Oklahoma State? All right, Sun Bowl, North Carolina and Stanford. That'll be a great one. Two very good athletes in that one, Ryan Switzer and Chris McCaffrey. That'll be fun to watch. Citrus Bowl, LSU and Louisville. That'll be interesting to see how LSU's defense keeps up with Lamar Jackson. Real quickly, without getting into statistics and everything else, I will tell you why Ohio State deserves to be in the playoffs. So we can stop blowing up the Facebook feed. I saw this all weekend long. Ohio State was 3-1 against top 10 teams. Also, non-conference, they got a victory over Oklahoma, who essentially, by the way, on the road, who essentially has won 9 straight games since what? October, September, something like that? September, they started 1-2. I mean, if you look at the resumes, now the playoff committee took an easy route too. All the other teams had 2 losses. Is it right that Penn State played in the conference title game and beat Ohio State to not get put in the playoffs? Maybe. But Ohio State certainly is one of the best teams in the country. I will tell you right now, Ohio State would beat 95 to 96% of the top 25, without a doubt. Urban Meyer's 50-4 at Ohio State with 1 national championship, has a shot at winning another one this year. That's in 4 years, folks. I mean, it's really tough. I guess it's you hate greatness. Now, I hate their fan base. I think they're all arrogant. They're horrible. But Ohio State certainly deserves to be in the playoffs. I think Michigan was the best team in the Big Ten, if you want my honest opinion. But they didn't beat Ohio State. They controlled their own destiny. They dropped the ball, so to speak. If Michigan won against Ohio State, they'd probably be in the playoff too. And then we'd be talking about, why did Michigan get in? Big Ten, without a doubt, was the best conference this year. Toughest conference. Look at it. From top to bottom, from the first to the 10th team in the country. How many Big Ten teams are there? So that's why. All right, let's get to our Let's Get Weird news.
Let's get weird, buddy. Let's get weird.
News.
She's the squirrel whisperer. To fellow Penn State students, senior Mary Krupa started a relationship with the gray squirrels her first week on campus. 4 years later, she's still an internet sensation, placing tiny hats on the furry rodents. She also coaxes them to hold miniature props. Her photos of Sneezy and Penn State Squirrel get thousands of likes on Facebook. Sneezy became an unofficial mascot. Krupa says her fellow students needed a laugh, but the squirrel whisperer's days on campus could soon be coming to an end. She graduates this month. I'm sure everybody's happy she's graduating. All right, that's our Let's Get Weird news.
Let's get weird.
News.
Computer Blue.
That's great.
She really needs some friends. All right, I'll stop. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Again, you can take us on the go at 95thesportsbox.com. This stream will be up on our website, podcast as well. Thanks to Tom Brack for stopping by. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Good night. Brandon Lowe Show, 95 The Sports Box.
Good. In your face, Charlie Murphy. Good. Shoot the J. Shoot it! Shoot it!
The Brandon Lowe Show, weekday evenings at 5 on WBES AM 950, Charleston.